Hey everybody, Mr. Macintosh here, and in today's video we're going to talk about macOS Big Sur 11.1 update. This is Big Sur's first big update since its release, and we're going to go over all the changes, all the issues that are standing, and everything that you're going to need to know about this update. We've got a lot to cover, so let's jump in and get started. First, we're going to go over all the details of the 11.1 update. Then we're going to talk about the install process and the download process of the 11.1 update. Then we're going to talk about all the things that are fixed, and then we'll talk about some of the standing issues that are still here. So now let's jump right in and talk about some of the details. The 11.1 update was released on December 14th, 2020, and it was only released a couple days after the release candidate beta of 11.1. What's interesting about this build number is it's exactly the same as the release candidate build number, 20C69. Normally what Apple will do is when they release the public version is change the build number by 1. So if it's 20C69, normally they would say 20C70, so at least you could differentiate both updates. So when you search for 20C69, you're probably going to find my previous RC beta article for 11.1 instead of the production or the final version of 11.1 Big Sur. So it's a little bit confusing, but not that big of a deal. I've not been able to find any differences between the two updates by sizes, by version numbers, or anything like that. So let's go over some of the details of the update here, and I'll scroll down to my details area here. A full installer of macOS Big Sur 11.1 has been released, and I've included a link right here to the Mac App Store. By clicking this, it'll open up a web page telling you about it, and then immediately open up the Mac App Store and you can get the full download here. You can also scroll down and see the version history, and you can see 11.1 was released here. I've also included the requirements and the size of the update, 12.21 gigabytes here. And I've also included a link to the full installer if you're having problems downloading the full installer. Some people complain about issues trying to download from the Mac App Store with errors and different things or whatever. This link here is directly to Apple's servers and will download the Install Assistant package. What that does is it downloads the full 12 gigabyte installer, but it's actually inside this package first. So when you run this package from Apple, all it will do is put the Install macOS Big Sur installer app into your applications folder. So it's a really neat tip to be able to download the full installer if you're having issues. The next thing is the Delta update. The Delta update is from one previous version behind, but technically you only have one because Apple released 11.0.1 as the regular installer. From that to 11.1 is 3.27 gigabytes, and the combo update, which would be from 11.0 if you had an Apple Silicon Mac with 11.0 on it, the factory build, to 11.1, this should be 4.19 gigabytes. There's also a firmware update for Apple Silicon Macs, and I keep track of all the firmware updates here. It's 6723.61.3. I've also have updated my Apple Silicon IPSW restore file database here that I keep, and I'll show you a picture of that here. I keep track of all the ISPW restore files so you can restore your Apple Silicon device with Apple Configurator 2. So I've updated with the latest IPSW file here that you can click, and it will download directly from Apple's servers, and you can drag and drop that into Apple Configurator 2 to restore your Apple Silicon device. Now keep in mind here, I've got it that it's still Apple is still signing 11.01, but we're going to find out pretty soon here within 1 or 2 weeks if Apple is going to stop signing this version or not. I will keep you guys updated on the latest information if this becomes unsigned and then you can't install it anymore. Now keep in mind, Apple Silicon devices have a security policy in macOS Recovery that you can go into and lower the security, and you should still be able to install this version. So I'm going to test that out too to make sure that still works, and I'll do an update video on that too. On Intel Macs, the T2 Bridge OS update was out, and it's 18.16.13.030. So if you have an Intel Mac with a T2 chip, that's what your Bridge OS update should be at, and it should be 442 megabytes in size. I also put a link to the security content of macOS Big Sur 11.1, and if you look at the security content, there is a ton of fixes in here. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Some of these are for the security update for Catalina and Mojave. You can tell by this here. So they're not all for Big Sur, but the ones with Big Sur will be labeled as Big Sur. Now in my next video, I am still going to go over the security update pieces, but for now we're just talking about Big Sur. Let's jump into the install process on the update and how long that took and how that went. I actually have a Apple Silicon Mac here standing by that I performed the update on, so we can go over that. Download went pretty quickly, and what's interesting is that this was on 11.1 beta, and if you look, the size was different than the Delta update that was on Intel Macs that was showing up. This was only 2.75 gigabytes, and the download process went actually very quick, even though everybody was downloading here this afternoon when it was just released. The install process also went very fast for this Apple Silicon Mac, probably under 15 minutes for this update. That went up through pretty good. So now on this Apple Silicon Mac, we're fully up to date with 11.1. Now I wanted to go over a big change in software update for Apple Silicon Macs. You now have to use your user password to authenticate the update. You're the owner of the system. That's the person whose password is needed to restart to install the update. Now let's talk about that process. I showed you the screenshot earlier to show you the size. But if you click install now, you will get a window that says downloading. It'll say downloading the update, and when the update's done, it'll say preparing, and then you'll get a notification up here in the upper right hand corner that says your Mac is ready to restart to install the update. You click the restart button, and now you'll be prompted for your password. And I've got a screenshot of that here. It says software update is trying to authenticate user. Enter your password for the user test to allow this. And this is the user authentication that I'm talking about. You have to enter in your password for it to restart to install the software update. So as soon as you do that, you click OK, the system will reboot to the installer. It'll install the firmware update, and then it'll move right to installing macOS or updating macOS, and then you're done when you're back in the operating system. Now, that's for the GUI. It's the same if you want to run software update from the terminal. So normally what you would do is you would do sudo software update dash I for install, A for all, and R for restart. You would click that, enter in your password here, and it would check for the update. It would see the update, automatically download the update, and before it would restart, it's going to say, hey, we need your password again to authenticate the owner of the user. Now, again, this is the change that I want to make sure you guys are aware of, and this is only for Apple Silicon devices right now, not for Intel devices. This is going to be a very interesting change for especially system administrators that are managing Macs on how to manage around this right now. Apple is saying what you want to do in this situation is use your MDM or your mobile device management server to push the update through that way. But we're already getting reports that even if you do press it, and when I say that, I'm talking about Jamf Pro or any of the mobile device management systems, that even when you do push the update, users are still getting this pop-up to enter in their password. So again, we're going to have to keep an eye on this one to see where this goes. You come back up from the update and it finishes, there's a couple new windows that pop up for the install assistant or when you finish the update. The first is the analytics window comes back up and you can click on continue for that. And then the next window that comes up is Siri, prompts you to enable Siri again if you have Siri enabled. So I just wanted to let you know that there was 2 additional windows when you come back up from the update here. Okay, let's jump into some of the changes and fixes of macOS Big Sur 11.1. One of the big ones that I'm excited about is the software update binary command, the fetch full installer option. Now let's look into this and see how this works, because I've got my Apple Silicon device here, plus the new option for list full installers. So let's try that new binary. This is really exciting because again, you wouldn't even imagine how many questions I get. I'm having so many problems downloading macOS. And this is a really great way to be able to do that if you're on macOS Catalina or Big Sur. So we'll open up our terminal window again. I'll make this a little bit better for you to see, and we'll zoom in here. So we'll paste that command, software update, with the option list full installers. We'll hit enter, and it's going to go out there and talk to Apple software update server and see the latest full installers that are available. And as you can see here, the following full installers all are available to download macOS Big Sur 11.1. Now all we need to do is run the software update fetch and full installer command now that we know that Big Sur is available. Now if you see the screenshot here, it does show other versions available, so I'm going to have to look into that and see why in this version of Big Sur they're not available. And what I think it is because I'm running this command on an Apple Silicon device. I bet you if we run this on an Intel device, it's going to show us all these available, because you can't install these older versions on an Apple Silicon device. So what it's doing is it's only saying, well, the only version that you can install is 11.1 Big Sur, so that's all we're going to give available to you. So I think if you run this on your Intel, you're going to be able to download all these versions, including all the way back to High Sierra. So it's really great. So let's test this out here. We'll go back to our Apple Silicon device and we'll put this command in here to fetch full installer, and it's going to scan for the installer and it should start downloading. Now remember what I've told you in the past, we can run our activity monitor so we can view the download process, because sometimes it'll just say, well, it's doing something, and you're wondering, is this thing really downloading or what is it doing here? So we'll switch over to the network tab here and we'll be able to monitor the see, look at this. And so that's my point here, right? So it's saying it's scanning for the installer. Well, what the heck is it doing? Well, here you go. We're already downloading it at almost 3 to 4 megabytes per second. So that's why Activity Monitor really helps you understand what's going on download wise. So that's it. When it's done, it'll be right in your applications folder for you to be able to do it anything you want. You can create an install media, or you can put it on a hard drive, or whatever you need to do. And look, there it is. Now when it says it's installing, we'll make this a little bit smaller so you can see this. When it says it's installing, all it's really doing is also downloading, and then it installs it to your applications folder. So that's what's happening during this process. So again, pretty cool how now you can use the software update binary to get full installers from Apple on macOS Catalina and macOS Big Sur. Let's go over the next hot button issue. It's the 2013 and 2014 13-inch MacBook Pro update issue. Now, if you're not aware of what was happening here, some of the owners of this 13-inch MacBook Pro would install the first version of macOS Big Sur 11.0.1, and then all of a sudden their Mac went black screen. It wouldn't respond to any commands. You could do SMC, PRAM, start off, turn it off, turn it back on. Nothing would respond. So it was basically bricked. And what it ended up being is that the 11.01 installer, for some users, not all, would damage the input outboard on the left hand side of the Mac that had the USB ports and the SD card slot. And what would happen is, with the input board like that in that condition damaged, it would not let the system start up. The workaround would be to take off the back panel and unplug that ribbon cable, and that would actually let the Mac start up and finish the update, and then you could replace the ribbon cable. Now, I've got a whole article explaining that issue and what you want to do. If this ever happened to you on your 13-inch MacBook Pro, I recommend here in this article that you contact AppleCare. From some of the responses from readers, they've told me that they've went to the Apple Store and they had no clue about this issue. So they would recommend that the users pay $400 or $500 out of pocket, since it's out of warranty, to replace the logic board. Keep in mind, this is not what you need to do. You need to talk to Apple support, because they do know. AppleCare knows about this issue and they will help you out. They know that when you install an operating system update or install a new operating system, this is not supposed to happen. And that's why Apple pulled the update. That's why I wrote this article and I reported on this. I opened up the installer and found out that Apple has removed the board ID for the 2013 and 2014 13-inch MacBook Pro. So if you downloaded the new version of 11.01 20B50, you would not be able to install macOS Big Sur. So it was a stopgap to stop any more users from damaging their MacBook Pros until Apple released a fix now here in 11.1, and that's what we're getting to. I put an update on this article. Apple has added this board ID back to the installer distribution file of 11.1. So this tells me that Apple has found the issue and repaired it in the installer, and it should no longer happen. I can't guarantee that, but why else would they put that in there? And Apple's not going to release a press release telling you that it's all fixed. It's up to people like me to go in there and figure out what's going on to tell you. Now, they did release a document to show, so let's see if it's updated here. So this is the document. Now keep in mind, at the time of December 14th, this is 4 hours after release, it hasn't been updated. Apple might come in here and then update this article and say that now you can, but that's what I'm telling you now. We'll have to keep an eye on this. You can see that December 9th is when they changed that, where you could not install the update anymore. And that's when I came out with this article here talking about this. How do I know that this is fixed? Well, I'll show you. It's the distribution file. It is the 001866606 English distribution file that's inside the 11.1 installer. And you can see it right here, the build 20C69 11.1. Now, I couldn't check this in the release candidate beta because Apple did not release a full installer for me to go in here and check to find out for sure. But now that 11.1 is out, the final version, and there is a full installer, I can go in here and find out. So let's go back to the article and let's cut and copy this board ID and search the distribution file for it. So let's click in here. We'll click Command F to find, and we'll do next. And there it is, right there. So if we scroll back to the beginning, this is supported board IDs. So all these board IDs are all of the Big Sur supported Macs, and we can see here that it's been put back in. So that is really big news here, and it's really great for the 13-inch MacBook Pro users who are really confused, especially the owners that had already installed it. And then maybe they have to reinstall their system and they get this confusing message. We'll go back to the article here. So let's say they erase their Mac, want to reinstall Big Sur from macOS Recovery. They would boot to Recovery and click Install, and this is the message that they would get. The installation of macOS could not continue. Installation requires downloading important content. That content can't be downloaded this time. Please try again later. And they're thinking, what the heck is the problem here? It's because it's not available to them. It would have been nicer if the message said, hey, the install has been pulled for now due to an issue, and let the user understand what's going on, but they had no clue what's going on. We'll have to see the reports from users. I'm thinking Apple really got this fixed. I do not think this is going to be a problem here in the future for any of these users, and it's really crappy that some of the users had their machines busted. But again, Apple is making it right from all the reports that I'm getting. So that's it for the 2013 and 2014 bricking issue. Next, let's talk about the issue that Apple Silicon users were having when they were trying to reinstall macOS on their Mac. They were getting the personalization error, and errors occurred preparing the update. Failed to personalize the software update. Please try again. This has been a big problem for these users, and this is still going to be a problem until the initial first batch of Apple Silicon devices with 11.0 is basically depleted from Apple's entire inventory. So what that means is that all the Macs coming off the line from probably today on will have 11.1 on there, and they should not have this personalization issue again. But all the Macs sitting on the shelf or in any factories or on any store shelves will still have 11.0.0 on it. And if they try to install macOS without updating to 11.1, they're going to have issues. So it's really great that this issue is fixed from now on, so the users should not have this anymore going forward. Let's talk about all the new features of macOS Big Sur 11.1. One of the most interesting parts is that 11.1 was required for both the new AirPods Max headphones and Fitness Plus. And that's how we actually knew that 11.1 was going to be released today, because Fitness Plus requires 11.1 and the new iOS updates. And it's really nice. I wish Apple would give us an idea of when the next version of the operating system would come out to give us some time to prepare. So it was really nice for this time and we didn't know for sure, but when you put two and two together, how could they release a new feature without the operating system to follow it up? So it had to be released today. And it was really nice to be able to prepare a little bit and know that this update was going to come out. So you can see here it supports AirPods Max and all the features there. There's also some new features for Apple TV, and all new Apple TV Plus tab that makes it easier to discover and watch Apple original shows and movies. Also enhanced search, so you can browse by category and recent searches and suggestions as you type, and top search results are shown with the most relevant matches across movies, TVs, shows, cast channels, and sports. Apple News is also updated for new widgets that are available in the notification center. The App Store now has new privacy information section on the App Store pages. It includes a developer reported summary of the app's privacy practices and an in-game dashboard with Apple Arcade games that recommends new arcade games to play. Some of the other noted fixes in this release is QuickTime Player might quit when opening a movie with a time code track after upgrading from macOS Catalina, so that's a fix. The Bluetooth connection status was not displayed in the control center. The reliability of unlocking your Mac automatically with your Apple Watch is fixed, and I've got a lot of people reaching out saying, hey, I can't unlock my Mac with my Apple Watch on Big Sur, so that's a big fix. Trackpad scrolling speed may be faster than expected on MacBook Pro model, and that's fixed. And the LG Ultrafine 5K display may incorrectly display 4K resolution on Macs with an M1, and that was another complaint that I was noticing in some of the forums that people were saying, hey, why can't I get a full 5K resolution? So that's fixed too. One other big note is that if you were trying to install HP printer drivers on macOS Big Sur, Apple just now released a 5.1 package for macOS. Now keep in mind, that's the same version number, but it's been re-released, so you can now install it on Big Sur. So that's another big problem. That's macOS Big Sur 11.1 update. Did you guys install it? Are you waiting? I want to hear from you. Tell me all about it in the comments. Let's have a discussion on this update. I want to know how well it works. Did it fix something that Apple didn't even mention there? That's why we're here in this video. We got to talk about stuff because Apple only puts a very small amount of fixes in there, but we know that they're fixing other things, even though it's not in the patch. So let's talk about this in the comments, and I really appreciate you watching this video. If this video proved valuable for you, consider clicking that like button and subscribing. If you're already a subscriber, I really do appreciate it, and we'll catch you in the next video, which will be the security updates. We'll talk to you then.